Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just introduced myself.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Alex Bäuml. I sometimes write under a moniker, ACB, which are my initials. And I work across styling, costume design, and I'm also a writer.
How would you describe your work?
I tend to think of my work as beauty, as trying to share beauty through storytelling, exploring storytelling as a way to make sense of myself and the world around me. As I said, I work across garments and words and events and spaces and experiences, so I kind of approach them all in a very similar way, kind of like different languages to express the same thing. And I'm really influenced by surrealism and magical realism in all of my work, and I think that's why I really like to blur fact and fiction, kind of how I live my life anyway. A little bit whimsical, a little bit grungy, a little bit ethereal, but mostly honest. I try to be honest with myself, and I find that my work is almost more honest than I am sometimes.
How do dreams influence your art?
Well, my dreams influence my art almost completely. I say I have very vivid dreams. I almost feel like I get to live alternate realities through my dreams, and I almost get to test things out because they do, more often than not, sometimes happen in real life as well. And I get a lot of symbolism and a lot of answers, and almost it feels like I get truth in my dreams that I'm able to then adapt, and they kind of linger when I write or when I create visuals. I usually get a lot of strong images, and if not a storyline, but sometimes crazy plots as well. So I like to think my dreams and we are kind of the same, and it's how I explore myself in different realms without the constraints of Earth. Yeah.
Do you feel like your dreams influence your work with garments more than your words, or kind of equally?
I guess kind of equally. It's not really like that I visualize garments or anything, or as much like costume. I feel like it's more I get the sense of an image, like the feel of an image and the way a visual sits in me, and that I can kind of channel into when I work in the fashion space or in the costume space. And with words, definitely plot. Sometimes I think that it's not something that I make up, but it's like it arrives to me. And so I sometimes run with those storylines and those plots in my writing. But I feel like with poetry specifically, it's about a feeling. So I wake up and I feel like I understand something, and I have an emotion or a truth, and I try to explain that through words. Sometimes it's hard, it's a bit inexplicable, but that is what lingers throughout the day, I think, when I wake up. I used to be better at keeping dream journals because I only remember them when I first wake up in the morning, but it's more the sensation in my body that lasts.
How do you make sense of recurring themes or motives in your work?
I think I don't really identify or set out with specific themes or motifs in any way, but when I look back on my work, like across all types of mediums, I just see obvious themes that are just reoccurring, such as like I get really inspired by nature. Yeah. Exactly. Hey. Case in point. By nature, by animals, and also a lot of mysticism, like folklore, myths, fairy tales, stories. I love all of that. Mythical creatures, and also just like a sense of the spirit lives, I think, in all of my work. And I realize that it's more about my lens rather than motifs, and it's not so much as like themes that I try to touch on or try to bring up. It's more like that is how I view the world, so they become one and the same. So of course there are apparent things that are always within my work, because it's just kind of the atmosphere that I build around me with which I relate to the world.
why do you think these things like resonate with you so much and come up so much in your work?
I think mostly, I mean, truthfully, the fairy tale stuff and all the myths and the tales that comes from being a kid. And I was obsessed with fairy tales always. Biggest bookworm, very antisocial until my teenage years. And I think that's how I understood the world, and it's how I developed a moral code for myself and how I understood how people function. And I think it's still how I relate to people. And I find that stories and kind of oral traditions is a thing that is probably like the oldest within, human history of how we make sure that our stories stay alive, how history stay alive, how culture stays alive. And I think it's very natural, and it's very natural to me. And I actually told myself this last year. I made a promise to myself that my work will only be what is natural to me. And if it doesn't come naturally, it's probably not what I'm supposed to be doing. And storytelling, magic, and these type of things are what comes most naturally to me. So of course they appear as much as possible.
Any rituals or habits that invite the subconscious into your creative space?
I don't actually really have very strict rituals, but what I do is kind of this. I go out into nature, I go for walks, I try to surround myself with the natural world because I think that's where my mind gets to quieten itself the most, and I actually allow ideas and concepts and just sort of like plugins that are not mine to arrive to me. Like that dog. So I just go around trees, touch trees, I talk to them. It's actually very elemental now that I think about it. So I go to the earth, to the trees, to the animals. I go to bodies of water over there. Really peaceful, always. Fire also always really helps me if I feel a bit stuck. I think I have not been the most gentle on myself in the past when I don't have ideas flowing or I have like writer's block. And I've tried to be kinder to myself when that happens, because sometimes that just doesn't happen for you. So you have to just allow it to flow. And I find fire really helps with that, where if I even light a flame, I wish I had a fireplace, but I don't. So a candle, flame, and just like speaking out into the fire kind of rids my mind of all the surface level things, and I'm able to then just sit. So that has become a ritual without it being one. I guess it's just daily practice. It's the same thing. Other rituals that I do is probably, I like to do new things, and I think I feel happiest and most myself when life feels expansive. And that's always when I do new things. I feel like I'm always chasing new experiences, new tastes, new sensations, new people. And that gets my mind going more than anything else. And I'm able to then channel that into work, which is the most stimulating thing.